Yes, we're going to start our meeting. Everybody online, could you identify yourselves?
Hi, Elaine McCann in Albany.
Good morning.
Mike Kendall, Albany.
Okay.
Down in Syracuse.
Oh, Syracuse on the left.
Yeah.
She's on the left.
Seems like she's trying to say something and we're not getting her.
Good
Okay.
morning. We see you waving.
All
Okay.
right, excellent, good. Nice to see you.
Maybe she's on mute. Dave, we can't hear you. You may be on mute.
Figure it out. There I go.
There.
Hi.
Ah, there you
Good
go.
morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hold on.
All right, I'm going to turn things over to Adam. We'll take the requisite legal steps to formally open our meetings.
Thank you. I note that we have Elaine McCann representing Budget Director Mary Beth LeBate, participating in the meeting via video conference from the New York State Division of Budget Conference Center at the Capitol Building, room 131 in Albany. We have Bea Gonzalez from the Syracuse Regional Office, 620 Erie Boulevard, Suite 312. I'll ask for motions and seconds to call to order the November 12, 2015 meetings of the New York State Housing Finance Agency, the New York State Affordable Housing Corporation, and the State of New York Mortgage Agency. Motions for HFA and AHC.
So moved.
And seconds.
Second.
Motion for SONYMA.
So moved.
And second.
Second.
As
Second.
items are presented to each board throughout today's meetings, these motions and seconds will be used unless specific items call for a different vote or unless any board member or director wishes to record his or her vote differently. Now we'll turn things over to President Rubin for his president's report.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Adam. Thank you all board members who managed to get it here. So let me give my, I'll give my brief president's report. This is like the, where's Waldo? This is sort of where's Jamie this month? This always turns into. But first, a quick report on what the agency has done since we last met. Earlier this morning, the Mortgage Insurance Committee approved 9 items and insurance for 7 projects representing 792 units of affordable housing located in Onondaga, Ulster, Westchester, Suffolk, and Bronx counties, including 2 really notable projects in Westchester and Suffolk that I think are very important for a variety of reasons. At HFA today, we will be seeking your approval for 9 multifamily projects with over $145 million in bond financing, representing almost 2,000 units of housing in 9 counties. At the Affordable Housing Corporation meeting, you'll review awards totaling $1.4 million, representing assistance to 86 units of housing in Orange, Saratoga, Suffolk, Steuben, and Wyoming counties. And then on the administrative side of the house, we'll review a number of contracts and ask for renewals, and the usual mix of other stuff. A couple of quick things. Lastly, we've been busy since our October meeting, traveling to every corner of the state, visiting projects, meeting with partners, and so forth. We're developing the housing plan, about which more hopefully soon. And this has been, as I think I've said before, an agency-wide effort. It's really come together well, and I think everybody, once we have the opportunity to share it more publicly, it'll be, I hope it'll reflect well on all parts of the agency. It's really been an incredible collaborative effort, not only with the agency, but also with other parts of the state government. I have been in Albany a bunch of times, Syracuse. I was in Canandaigua earlier this week. I've been in Rochester. The list goes on. And of course, we've had other folks in all different kinds of places. A couple of notable events. Brett Garwood, who is, I don't remember Brett's title, but he is, what is his title?
Is it SVP for multifamily finance?
SVP for multifamily finance. And really one of the mainstays of the agency, was honored by NISAP, the statewide agency, statewide association of for affordable housing developers, as Advocate of the Year at an event last week that I went to, which was just terrific. It was really a great honor. Brett, well deserved. He's been with us for, I think, for a couple of years, and then before that worked for the city of Rochester for a long time, leading their development efforts at the municipal level. And he's just a terrific. He's a great asset to the agency, a really dedicated guy, and it was was a really nice event. We, a few weeks ago, hosted our first of what will be 13 faith-based, it's really more than faith-based, it's faith-based and community, what do we call them?
Housing, community, and faith-based development.
There we go, housing, community, and faith-based development conferences. It's a mouthful. This was in Utica, and it was a terrific success. We probably had over 100 people, probably 150 people in Utica from faith-based institutions. We had a number of state agencies represented there. Roanne DeVito, the commissioner of OGS, who is a Utica native and represented them in the assembly for a long time, chaired the conference with me, as well as along with Fran Barrett, who is the head of the governor's nonprofit unit, and Karim Kamara, who works at this agency running our faith-based institutions effort. It was great. We had people from we had an opening session where we talked about sort of generally the importance of partnerships with faith-based and nonprofit institutions in doing the state's work across a bunch of different agencies. And then we had breakout sessions throughout the rest of the day, and some of them led by people from this agency, and some it was a collaborative, ESDC, OMH, OTDA, the rest of the alphabet soup. Talking about how better to work with state agencies, what really the opportunities are, and I think we taught a lot. I think we also learned a fair amount about where there were gaps in our communication with those parts of the world. It was really an interesting day and very inspirational. There were a number of people there who are doing terrific work on the ground in Utica and had an opportunity to share some of that. There was a woman who's done an incredible job over 20 years developing an entire neighborhood in Utica that was really a disaster, and now if you drive through it, which we did with the mayor, it just clearly has turned around. Her name is Reverend Skates, and she came. She brought a number of the people who live in her, the tenants who live in her development and who have benefited from the services that they offer, and a couple of them sort of stood up and testified to what her work has done. It was great, really interesting day. So the next one will be in December, I think, in Rochester, but more to come about that. It was great, and we're hoping that the governor will be at least a couple of those. New York City Weatherization Day was in Brooklyn a couple weeks ago. Some senior people from the Department of Energy came and spoke, and that was interesting. We went and visited a building in the 20s in the Lower East Side. I guess that's not the Lower East Side, Chelsea, where our funding is going to make some important weatherization improvements, including the replacement of a boiler. So that was interesting and sort of a little part of our agency that doesn't get as much attention but does some really important work. And then finally, last week I kicked off HDR's 2016 CFA, the State Employees Federated Appeal Drive, up in Albany in our Hampton Plaza office. In 2015, HCR employees from Hampton raised over $15,000 for charitable organizations across the state, which was a record amount. And I fully expect that we will do that well or better in 2016. That was also very nice. The guy who runs Ronald McDonald House, which I guess is going to be the beneficiary of our donations, was there as well. So all in all, a very active month. Thanks. Unbelievable. It's a great state, a big state, as it turns out.
Thank you, Commissioner. Adam, committee actions?
Okay, this morning, the Mortgage Insurance Committee took the following actions. It adopted the minutes of the October 15, 2015 meeting, recommended approval of 100% mortgage insurance on $9,322,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for Clinton Plaza. Committee approved 100% mortgage insurance on a $9,140,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for Copiague Commons, Suffolk County. Committee approved 100% mortgage insurance on an $8,450,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for 7 Greens Apartments, Ulster County. Committee approved 100% mortgage insurance on a $6,230,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for Joseph L. Allen Apartments, Schenectady County. Committee approved 100% mortgage insurance on a $2,200,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for Theodore Friend Senior Apartments, Westchester County. Committee approved 100% mortgage insurance on a $27 million CPC permanent first mortgage loan for Inner Harbor, Syracuse, Onondaga County. Committee approved an increase in 100% mortgage insurance from $4,500,000 to $5,700,000 on a CPC permanent first mortgage loan in Syracuse, Onondaga County. The committee approved an increase in 100% mortgage insurance from $4,250,000 to $4,825,000 on a CPC permanent first mortgage loan in Bronx County. And last, the committee approved 100% mortgage insurance on a $3,747,433 list permanent first mortgage loan in Bronx County.
Nicely done.
I know.
It's magical.
Gotta remember to breathe.
We'll now present items shared by HFA, AHC, and SONYMA.
Sing it.
First, we'll record the approval of the minutes. The minutes of the meetings of HFA, AHC, and SONYMA held on October 15, 2015 shall be deemed approved, absent corrections from members and directors.
Item 2, the item's been deferred. Let's move to the SONYMA action items. Item 3, resolution approving contract for computational analytics services. Coming to the table, Ms. Zucker.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
This SONYMA, as everybody knows, is a mission-driven lender on the single-family side, and we fund that through 2 resolutions, which total nearly $3 billion of outstanding debt and plus or minus about 3,000 mortgages. To keep track of that on an ongoing basis, the agency contracts with an outside firm to do cash flows, to keep track of the revenue flows, to keep track of prepayments on mortgage loans, to track our tax status in each of the different series of bonds to make sure we're not violating any IRS rules, all of which is quite complicated and demands a lot of attention and a considerable amount of expertise, both on the tax side, on cash flow side, in terms of building models to track this, et cetera. So on a regular basis, the agency goes out for RFP to bring cash flow experts to the table to help us manage our resolutions and the revenues off of the mortgage portfolio. And we're before the board to hire CFX. CFX actually has been doing this work for the agency for years. They are, in my opinion, sort of without peer in the industry in their ability to be nimble, to track what's going on both in the market and within our resolution. And we're here to bring to the board a contract that lets us hire them for up to 5 years. I believe, just bear with me 1 second. I don't remember the term of this contract. I think it's 3 plus 2. Thank you, Sheila. I appreciate that. 3 plus 2, and to continue their service to the agency.
Questions?
I had the chance to meet with them. They brought their team in to meet with me about a month and a half ago and talk through what they do. It's very complicated. We absolutely, I'm sure we could do it if we had to, but we'd have to
Staff up.
staff up, and in the meantime we lose all. So,
Buy software,
Yeah.
et cetera.
Okay.
zero concerns about this.
Now before the board for approval is a resolution of the State of New York Mortgage Agency approving the entering into of a contract with CFX Incorporated for computational analytics services, assuming the first and second previously entered for SONYMA. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Item,
Thank you.
thank you. Item 4, resolution approving 100% mortgage insurance on a $27 million CPC permanent first mortgage loan for Inner Harbor, Syracuse, Onondaga County. Okay, note that this item was discussed and voted on earlier. Today's Mortgage Insurance Committee meeting is now for a vote of the SONYMA board. There will be no discussion on this item if the directors so request. Moving on to the votes. Adam?
Now before the board for approval is a resolution of the State of New York Mortgage Agency approving mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for Inner Harbor, Syracuse, Onondaga County, assuming the first and second previously entered for SONYMA. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Item 5, a resolution approving 100% mortgage insurance on a $9,140,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan from Copic Commons, Suffolk County. Note that this item was discussed and voted on earlier at today's Mortgage Insurance Committee meeting and is now up for vote by the SONYMA Board. There will be no discussion on this item unless the directors so request.
I have just a
Yes.
point I would like to make. This is a very important project. It does two things that we've been trying to get done on Long Island for a long time. It is building rental housing in a place where it needs to be built, and the community has been really for it, and it has taken years and years and years to achieve this. And it also was done with the CDBG disaster recovery money, thanks to somebody who's sitting at the table.
Adam? Oh, no, not,
No.
maybe not, okay.
No.
Thank you,
Oh,
Joyce,
yeah.
appreciate it.
Now before the board for approval is a resolution of the State of New York Mortgage Agency approving mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for Copic Commons, Suffolk County. Assuming the first and second previously entered for Sunny May, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Item 6, resolution approving 100% mortgage insurance and a $9,322,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for Clinton Plaza, Syracuse, Onondaga County. Note this item was discussed and voted on earlier. Today's Mortgage Insurance Committee meeting is now up for vote by the SONYMA Board. There will be no discussion on this item unless the directors so request. We'll now move on to the votes.
Now before the board for approval is a resolution of the State of New York Mortgage Agency approving mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for Clinton Plaza, Onondaga County, assuming the first and second previously entered for Sunny May. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Item 7, a resolution approving 100% mortgage insurance on an $8,450,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan to 7 Greens Apartments, Ulster County. Note that this item was discussed and voted on earlier today's Mortgage Insurance Committee meeting. It's now up for vote by the SONYMA Board. There'll be no discussion on this item unless the directors so request. We'll now move on to the votes.
Now before the board for approval is a resolution of the State of New York Mortgage Agency approving mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for 7 Greens Apartments, Ulster County, assuming the first and second previously entered for Sunny May. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
We now move to the SONYMA consent item. Item 8, resolution approving issuance of mortgage insurance fund pool insurance policy for the SONYMA single-family program in the amount of $500 million. There'll be no discussion on this item, unless the board members so request.
Now before the board for approval is a resolution of the State of New York Mortgage Agency approving the issuance of a pool insurance policy for the Sunny May single-family program, assuming the first and second previously entered for Sunny May. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Okay, there being no further items for the SONYMA Board, Adam will ask for motions and seconds to adjourn the meeting.
Assuming the first and second previously entered for the Sunny May Board, all in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried, the meeting's adjourned. Our next board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, December 10, 2015 at 8:30. Note that we won't be having a committee date on December 8. We're going to adjust the schedule so we do both committee and the board meetings on December 10, and going forward, as we discussed at the educational session, we'll consolidate into one date.
Let's see how it works.
And also, we did send out a note with 2016 tentative board dates to the board members. I think that closes it up for Sunday.
And one of the things we are going to do after a couple of meetings where we do it that way, we'll circle back and try and get a sense of how everybody thinks it has worked. And if it does, we'll continue to do it that way. But
And the 2016 calendar does have 2 educational sessions as well, so we'll have opportunities to discuss there too.
excellent. All right, thank you. We now move to the HFA action items. Adam will call to order the Finance and Program Committee of HFA.
Call the board of the 50th Finance and Program Committee meeting of HFA, which will be held jointly with the board meeting. Can I have a motion to open the committee meeting?
So moved.
And a second. We'll use these recorded votes as we move forward.
All right, item 1, minutes of the 49th meeting of the HFA Finance and Program Committee held on October 15, 2015, shall be deemed approved, absent corrections from the members. Now we move back to the board agenda. Item 9, resolutions authorizing financing approval amount not to exceed $60,795,000 for Rutland Road Houses Project, Kings County.
Good morning again. I just want to do a big picture overview of what we're looking at on today's agenda. It's very typical in November for us to have a pretty heavy agenda of projects that are realizing that we're running out of runway room in the calendar and want to get done by December. So the bulk of these will be in our December pool. We're just in the market this week with about $53 million open reso issue priced really well. So well, in fact, that we accelerated. We thought we were going to do one day retail, one day institutional. And the market reception was so positive, we were able to accelerate and get it done in one day. One housekeeping issue I'd like to mention at the education session, people were asking about the board memo structure. So it's not something we're going to touch right now. We're right in the middle of our busy season, but we will work in January and try out new formats for the board memo and look for your feedback on what you want shown and how you want things highlighted so that they're more easily accessible. Today's, the commissioner mentioned, we have $148 million of financing in front of the agency board, which is 8 new projects and 1 subsidy loan, so 9 projects altogether. Of the 9 that we're looking to finance, 3 are UDC Mitchell-Lamas, 1 is an HFA Mitchell-Lama, 5 are preservation deals, 4 are new construction deals, 3 are seniors, 2 are middle income, 4 of them are downstate, and this is a New Yorker's view of downstate, so anything Westchester and south counts in that definition, and 5 are upstate, so pretty good geographic distribution. Starting with Rutland Road, Rutland is a UDC Mitchell-Lama in Brooklyn. It is, bear with me 1 second, there it is. And just to give you a bit of an update on the Mitchell-Lama portfolio, we have 17 mortgages closed already of the 35, so past the 50% mark. We're a little more than, probably like 2 3/4 years into the initiative, so about right where we'd want to be in a 5-year initiative. With the projects we're considering today, that'll bring us to 20 by year end, with a bunch more teed up for closing in the 1st or 2nd quarter of next year. Okay, so back to Rutland Road. Rutland Road is a 300 and, I don't have the number, it's 400, missing numbers today, bear with me 1 second.
438.
438, so one of the largest projects that's left, 438 unit Mitchell-Lama property. We are participating with this project in the RAD program and expect about 347 of the tenants to get project-based vouchers. There is a considerable amount of work that's being done in this transaction. There's over $100 million of total development cost, and the hard cost on this project is estimated. I have a very bad discombobulated board memo, so I'm really sorry for this, not as clear as I would like it to be presentation. So let me just bear with me 1 second. 100 million total development costs, about 60 million of financing issued by the agency, plus tax credits of about $2 million. I'm missing the first page.
44,000.
I'm so sorry.
It's 44,000 a unit, 20 million hard cost.
Thank you.
That's funny. You are just missing the first page.
I'm missing the first page, which gets me organized on this. I'm going to start all over. So we're asking the board for up to $60 million of fixed rate financing. As in many of the downstate Mitchell-Lamas, this project does not need subsidy because the rent levels are high enough to cover both any acquisition costs and the rehab costs of the project. The project has seen some work during its years. The scope of this financing is going to be painting, floor replacement, electric baseboard heat replacement, lighting upgrades, trash compactors, roof repair, and replacement. The hard cost is estimated at $44,000 a unit. This is a related party transaction. Mr. Bill Lucas, who's also the owner of Smith Woodward, which we financed last year, is the owner of this project as well and is staying in the development. This is a prudential Freddie Mac transaction. Just to give the board background, in any transactions where we see permanent mortgage loans in excess of $25 million, that's really SONYMA Mortgage Insurance Fund's threshold. We'll see one of the GSEs come in as credit enhancement on the mortgage, and the tax credits are being sold. I shouldn't start a sentence without knowing where I'm going to end it. Tax credits are being sold to Raymond James. Thank you very much, everybody, for your help today. Why don't I stop there and see if you have any questions, because I really seems a little lost in this resolution. Thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
One, in terms of the bonds that have to be issued for this project, and in general, as a general matter also, the possibility that the Fed will be raising its rates,
Yes,
I assume will affect our bond sales,
it will.
regard of costs.
So I think some of that's already baked into the market, and people are expecting to see that. We are scheduled to be in the market in December with this pool of projects, but we're scheduled to be in the market ahead of the Fed action. That may or may not happen in December. Clearly for transactions and that we're looking at to fund next year, we do expect interest rates will go up, but what we will typically do is almost make an interest rate commitment to a project. We have an interest rate committee. I think we've discussed that with the board. The HFA level that looks at what current interest rates are, how long it is between the time we're meeting and we expect a project to be financed, and build in a cushion for that, market possible risk that we might see between the time we're underwriting a deal until we come to market. We do always build in a bit of a cushion for that uncertainty. We found over the years that it's very difficult to move a rate once we're too close to closing. So pretty much between board time and when we bring a deal, everybody's locking down their numbers, and so it's hard for us to say, oh, we're going to bump the interest rate 5 basis points, 10 basis points. Part of that is the reason we build in some flexibility on the amount of subsidy we give to a project. We have a little bit of cushion that we have after the board's approval, and that could make up for any possible movement, but really what we try to do is commit to a rate between now and closing and keep to it.
And the other question I had actually just has to do with the term of the mortgage here and the affordability requirements for the project. It's remaining in the Mitchell-Alma program.
Project is remaining in the Mitchell-Alma program. Of the coherent statements I was able to get out, it's true that 340, we're expecting that 347 units will have project-based vouchers. We have a regulatory agreement that goes for the life of the mortgage that requires affordability.
Right, so it won't be taken out of the program.
It won't, and that's fairly
Or,
typical for our downstate
Okay.
Mitchell-Alma transactions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, this is it's a good deal to do because it's a Mitchell-Lima deal. It's a lot of units in Brooklyn. I will admit that I'm not 100% sure what part of Brooklyn this is.
Probably Flatbush.
Flatbush. It's in Flatbush, as we all know.
You know Brooklyn.
I know it like the back of my head. But you know, and this is it's a priority of the governor, which is why we set aside a bunch of money. So it's good to do it. It's a little bit. I mean, I've talked about this. We talked about this with staff. I mean, there's some slightly odd features of it. There's a big seller's note, which is good.
Yes, that's good. Leaving debt in the project. They're fully paying off the agency's first mortgage debt.
Yeah, which is good.
Another good feature.
The hard cost, they're doing a lot of work. The hard costs are not all of the acquisition, obviously. I mean, there's a big, we're paying off people's taxes,
Yes,
which is what you do in a Mitchell-Lima transaction.
right.
Typically, it happens to be it's a big number here. I think on balance, I mean, there's no subsidy also, so that's good.
Right.
So I think on balance, it's probably a pretty good use of our funds. I don't know, it's hard to sort of say whether it's, it's a big transaction, so the numbers are gonna be bigger. It's in the city, it's almost 500 units. If it was a 100-unit Mitchell-Lima somewhere else, and we were doing exactly the same kinds of things, the numbers would not be so eye-poppingly big, and you wouldn't even notice. So I think it's a good deal to do. That's what I think.
Now before the committee and board are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Carried and the resolution adopted. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
Item 10, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $19 million for Copiague Commons, Suffolk County.
My old stomping ground, Suffolk County. So in this year's budget, everybody knows there was a $25 million new middle income program that was passed, and this project is a poster child for what we had hoped to accomplish with that program as a resource. It's in a suburban location. In the suburbs, it is sometimes difficult to site affordable housing, and having the middle income program, we've seen increasing acceptance of the agency's mission. This is new construction of 90 units. 71 of the units are going to be restricted at or below 60% of AMI, and 18 are going to be at or below 130% of AMI. This, as you heard Marge Rogat say during the SONYMA portion, is really exciting, not only for that reason, but also because it's part of the rebuild of Copiague after Sandy, and benefited from a community reconstruction plan which had been supported by the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery. About 25% of Copiague was destroyed during Sandy. This financing is going to be done with a Citibank back-to-back structure, which is Citibank holding the loan during the construction period with a forward purchase commitment to then buy bonds out of the open resolution at permanent conversion. The mortgage is going to, I was going to just say have a letter of credit, but no, it's going to be in the back-to-back structure. The total development costs of this project is nearly $33 million, which is about $366,000 a unit, which is about right on target for what we see for new construction, both in the city and suburban communities. Of that, we're going to have $19 million in financing, $1.7 million in middle income program funds, $8.7 million in disaster relief funds, $750,000 of Suffolk County money, and $1.8 million in a Citibank subordinated loan. The borrower is Copiague Commons LLC, which is a partnership between Conifer, which is one of our upstate developers who also does make its way to Long Island from time to time, And they're partnering here with CDC of Long Island, one of the island's leading nonprofit groups. Management company is going to be Conifer. So this project has a lot of our policy priorities baked into it. We are all really, really excited about it and happy to see it move forward.
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
So let me echo Marge's terrific project. It's great to see us working in this area. I have one kind of more general question, echoing something I raised last week, and this is mostly for kind of, I have a little bit of cold, sorry. Year-end reporting. I know we talked last week about the jobs outcomes, but it's sort of striking. The numbers sort of, I know this is a formula based on an
Somebody
AHC,
else's formula.
but obviously it comes to how we as a board think about the impact of our projects at the end of the year. And so one thing that might be helpful is just when we get to that year-end roll-up to help us understand what the formula is. Because you have two projects in a row. I was just sort of noticing as I was reading last night, one sort of $100 million project that has 1,300 jobs noted on the formula, and this one's about a $32 million project, 110 jobs. And I'm sure the formula works. It's just not clear to us how.
Okay.
So it's more just a kind of information point going forward.
Do you want it in December or in our January?
January, so I'm actually going to be away in December.
Okay. Happy to
That's
do
that's
that.
the answer we prefer anyway. 'cause
Okay.
I believe this formula is based on units, which is one of the things that,
Okay.
so a unit that costs, $400,000 is evaluated the same as an
Right.
outside. We're looking at 3 different methodologies to try to, answer your question from last.
And obviously, it's just one metric, but I'm just curious.
It's
So-
good for average, it's not really telling project by project,
Good, thank you.
total.
So the one subsequent question I had about this project, and again, it's a really, really terrific project, is, we are looking at this as a rental housing project for families, but I'm just curious what our thinking was on the mix of 56 one-bedroom versus 33 two-bedroom, and whether it's, because I don't know whether we think of one-bedrooms as family units. And, obviously it's great to have this housing in a high-cost area, great school district and all of that, but if 33 of the units are, if only 33 of the units are two-bedroom, I'm just curious sort of how we approach that.
So a lot of times that is a fait accompli by the time it gets to the agency and really reflects the zoning approval of the local municipality. I know that on Long Island, there's a big push to think about keeping young people on the island, and this is right by a train station, which is one of the other features about this development that we really like. So I can see that going for singles, perhaps, or young workers who people are very, as I said, anxious to keep on the island. There is one other thing I want to say on the record. We all know Marge is modest about her contributions, but she's been an advocate for affordable rental housing on Long Island for decades, and these sorts of developments don't move forward without that sort of work of advocating for years and years that she and all of her professional groups that she's involved with, have supported. So I think she deserves credit for this.
Agreed.
In connection with Nestor's question, do we have, or do we look at statistics, demographic census statistics for family size among low-income people in the geographic area in question to get some idea of the appropriateness of the relationship between unit size and potential demand?
Well, there's market studies,
Right, but
and we do see the market studies, right, to make sure that there's demand.
Right, but it's also, in terms of the question that was just asked, where it strikes me also that there's a large number of one-bedrooms relative to the number of two-bedroom apartments, whether that really is an appropriate mix given the characteristics of the population and the geographic area, however local or widespread one wants to define it. think perhaps for our
Yeah.
information in the future, it might be helpful if we had that information so we could also look at it and,
Sure. I mean, it's always an issue because you don't want to say, okay, what's the population that's there, because the population that's there is largely housed, right? So you want to look at some capture area to say, okay, of the people who we think, we're open to a conversation about how big of a group, how large of an area
It
you
could
want
be
to
that-
see referenced.
that the data work that's being done through the AI may be helpful in that regard. It's a bit of
Okay.
a tool. Sorry, I can't speak.
It's okay, sorry to put you on the spot.
Well,
And Adam's taking notes of all the things we have to do.
Now before the committee and board are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution adopted. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
Item 11, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $9,100,000 for Joseph L. Allen Apartments, Schenectady County.
Hi, this project, to give you a little bit of context, also is achieving a lot of our state housing priorities. It is integrated supportive housing. We're seeing a lot more of this model upstate. It's almost shocking that I just described Schenectady upstate from my worldview, previous worldview, but fine. This is also part of the storm recovery efforts. This project is receiving funding through our partnership with the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery. And it has an important community development aspect. There are other HCR projects and activities in Schenectady, and this is part of an effort to really improve Schenectady. So this is a resolution authorizing financing for Joseph Allen in Schenectady. It is new construction of 51 units located in Albany Street. All 51 units will be affordable to households under 60% of area median income. And as I said, it's integrated. There's 25 units that'll be set aside for single adults who suffer from psychiatric disabilities. We're asking for 9.1 million estimated fixed rate bonds and an allocation of $616,000 of tax credits. There is substantial leverage. We have a previous award from the CDBGDR funds of $4.2 million. New York State Office of Mental Health is doing what they have often done in projects like this with capital and services support. So the location, as I mentioned, is a good community development context. It is in close proximity to State Street, which is a major thoroughfare. It's got retail, banking, supermarkets, and restaurants and services nearby. There are also parks located nearby. The mix of units is 1 studio, 46 one-bedrooms, and 4 two-bedrooms apartments. There are laundry facilities and other amenities on site. It is, as often done by DePaul, a really great design. If you see the drawings, it's really remarkable, but it will also achieve Energy Star Certified Homes Program, Enterprise Green Communities criteria, and NYSERDA certifications. Schenectady Community Action Program will be providing the social services at the location for the supportive housing. The land cost was $528,000. It's an unrelated transaction. So the developers, DePaul, we've heard, and we've worked a lot with DePaul. Letter of credit is being provided by Chase Insurance for SONYMA, and the investor will be Redstone. Do you have any questions?
None.
Now before the committee and board are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution adopted. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
Item 12, resolution authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $8,470,000 for Theodore Friend Senior Apartments, Westchester County.
Hi, again, this is achieving some important goals. This is affordable housing in a very high-cost area, a suburban area in Westchester County. It also meets the federal fair housing court settlement against Westchester for development of affordable housing, which is compelling substantial investment by Westchester. It's going to be the new construction of a 4-story, 41-unit senior rental building on North Street in Rye. All the units will be affordable to households under 60% of area and income, with 8 of those under 50% of area and income. We're asking for $8.5 million of bonds and an allocation of $629,000 of tax credits and a $2.6 million HFA subsidy loan. Later today, we'll also be requesting a $3 million allocation for Homes Working Families funds from HTFC, but Westchester County is providing $2.2 million of their funding, plus had donated the land, which is valued at $2.35 million, so that's a substantial local contribution. The 41 units will be 28 one-bedrooms and 13 two-bedrooms. Project consists of about 37,000 total square feet. It will have a laundry room, on-site office for the superintendent. Total hard cost is expected to be $12.2 million. There are substantial green amenities in the project. The Housing Action Council and LAS are the developers. The investor is Raymond James. Letter of credit is Citibank, and insurance is provided by SONYMA. Do you have any questions?
It's a good project. I mean, we, as mentioned, and we talked about this before, obviously Westchester County has an obligation to affirmatively further the development of fair housing, and they're obviously kicking in a bunch in different ways here. What was the site before?
The site's vacant, I believe, now.
Vacant.
It's my memory. This is not one of the projects that will close with HFA in December, but we're coming to the board now to accommodate the Westchester funding going into the project in December.
Is it the infrastructure fund that they're putting in? Is that hard dollars?
That's all capital.
It's all capital. And it goes to all the sort of the underground infrastructure stuff.
Or site, site.
Site.
market
Exactly,
too.
but it appears in the sources and uses as a subsidy loan, basically supporting this, I believe.
Westchester and Suffolk County have similar funds to do that, to stimulate development.
Good.
And before the committee and board, are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item, assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. The motions are carried and the resolution adopted, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA board. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
Item 13, resolution authorizing the approval of a subsidy loan in an amount not to exceed $5 million for the crossing at Jamaica Station, Queens County.
This is the second middle income program project to move forward. Copeg was our first. It's unusual in that the agency typically sees financing where the agency is issuing bonds, but we have now, with new programs, subsidy-only loans coming to the board for its approval. Jamaica, the crossing at Jamaica Station, as the name implies, is one of the most transit-oriented. If you can say something is like the most transit-oriented development, it is
This is
right.
transit-oriented.
This is like super transit-oriented
Railroad
development.
running right through the.
Exactly. Exactly.
Runs through the middle of the house?
No, it's right across the street from Jamaica Station. And it has incredible subway access, incredible Long Island Railroad access. It's right there by the air train to the extent people want to get out to JFK Airport. This is a 450 unit development, which is otherwise being funded by HDC, HPD, and ESD, and the agency is looking to invest $5 million subsidy loan, which is about $15,873 per unit. It's a 27-story new construction. They are going to seek LEED Gold status. There are, numerous green features to the building, including a cogeneration plant. The $284 million total development cost is expected to be financed with $157 million of taxable bonds issued by HDC, $27.5 million of tax-exempt bonds, $49 million of subsidy from HDC and HPD combined, $18.3 million tax credit investment, and $48 million borrower equity, and $1.2 million demo funds from ESD. The unit distribution is 20% or 90 units of low income at or below 60% of AMI, 50% or 225 units at or below 130% of AMI, and the remaining 30% or 134 units at market rate. The building also includes 107,000 square feet of retail and 312 parking spaces. The borrower is an entity controlled by BRP and Goldman Sachs. BRP is a new entity for the agency to deal with as a borrower, but we certainly know them and know their sterling reputation in the New York City development community. They were founded in 1998 by Meredith Marshall, Steve Smith, and Jeff Flournoy. We've had many conversations with them. We're really excited to be across the table and working with them on this transaction. They also, BRP Construction Group will be the construction manager for this project, and their BRP management facility will manage the building on a going forward basis. The project also meets a number of policy goals besides our policy goals. It's in the special downtown Jamaica district and also has been endorsed as part of the Jamaica revitalization plan. Are there any questions?
Again, what is the length of the affordability requirement here?
30 years from us, and I don't know.
30 years from us. 30 years.
30 years
Right,
ago?
I just don't know whether
Is there any additional from the
HPD or
city?
HDC has anything longer than our 30 years. And again, it's different than Copeg. It's not suburban. It's in an area where you might want to sort of help, bring up the income levels of the folks that are living in a particular community, and having the middle income resource really helps us get a mix of low income.
There's also a tremendous demand for working family housing as opposed to just very low income or low income.
Exactly. So we're really excited about the range of different policy goals we can meet with the middle income program.
It's a good project for us to do, and I think it's a good use of our middle income money as well. It's like a nice, the project wouldn't happen without us, but it's not, the bulk of it is obviously not our financing, but I know it's a high priority for the city as well. And I agree with you, I think BRP is probably a very good party for us to start to do a little bit more with. So, it's great.
Excellent. Any other questions? Yep.
Now before the board is a resolution of the New York State Housing Finance Agency authorizing a subsidy loan for the project known as Jamaica Crossing, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA board. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Item 14, resolutions authorizing financing approval in the amount not to exceed $9,600,000 for Golden Parks Apartments at Sullivan County.
So the next two projects are actually somewhat of a pair. They're proceeding with the same development team, and they are both part of our ESD House New York Mitchell-Lama initiative, as Marion mentioned earlier in the presentation. They're two really good examples of kind of campus-style low-rise housing that is going to be substantially improved by this priority of ours to renovate the Mitchell-Lama portfolio. The first is Golden Park Apartments, located in the Village of Liberty in Sullivan County. It's the acquisition and rehab of 126 affordable senior apartments. All the units, or excuse me, 87% of the units will be set aside for seniors under 60% of AMI. The remainder are still affordable under 80% of AMI. We're asking for $9.6 million of bonds, $9.6 million of a Mitchell-Lama subsidy loan, which is that source of funding that's specifically allocated to this portfolio of projects, and $611,000 of tax credits, annual allocation of tax credits. The project benefits from from participation in the RAD program, and 106 units will be project-based vouchers through that RAD program, and they receive a 30-year payment in lieu of taxes agreement from the local jurisdiction. This project was built in 1976, as you know, from the UDC loan. It has 125 one-bedrooms and 1 two-bedroom apartment in 10 buildings. There's also a community building. It's conveniently located near a shopping center that includes a grocery store. One of the things that's also notable about these two projects is that these are some of the unfortunately small number of loans that have basically performed throughout the portfolio, and our entire debt on the property will be repaid at the closing. So that's somewhat a credit. The purchase price is projected to be $2.5 million. That will pay down the remaining loan of $488,000 plus an additional PIP loan balance of $156,000, with the remaining sale proceeds going to the seller and their partners. The total rehab is very substantial. This is $85,000 per unit. This project will be truly transformed with new roofs, new siding, which will help on the aesthetic nature of the project, but also new kitchens and bathrooms. There's substantial asbestos abatement being conducted here as well. The developer is Norwich. The Prince of Norwich, Mr. Carlin, is here today. They've been involved in 11 affordable housing developments, totaling about 1,300 units in 4 states. I think this is the first time we've provided financing directly to them. They have substantial experience and own and operate several of our Mitchell-Lama projects. The investor is Boston Financial. Letter of credit is being provided by Chase, and insurance is SONYMA. Do you have any questions?
None.
How are the taxes being handled in this one? Is there?
So this is one of the projects upstate. Often they exit the Mitchell-Lama program, and that's typically a result of the pilot situation. Okay. So they have approval, hard-fought approval for a pilot from the local jurisdiction for 30 years. So they will no longer be Mitchell-Lama, but they'll be affordable for a regulatory period of 40 years, probably, I think is what we would typically do, and enjoy a pilot for 30 years.
And has the pilot been signed and approved and all that kind of stuff?
It's been approved. I don't know that it's been executed, but it would be before the closing.
Where does that, just out of curiosity, where does that appear in the sources?
It doesn't appear as sources. It just appears as in the pro forma as a lower tax amount. It appears in the board memo under leverage, I believe.
Anything else?
I guess that's what takes it up.
Right. It reduces the operating costs.
I got it.
Exactly.
Now before the committee and board are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item, assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 The motions are carried and the resolutions adopted.
Okay, moving right into which is the same resolution, item 15, resolutions authorizing financing approval and receipt, $14,500,000 for 7 Green Apartments, Ulster County.
So many of the facts remain the same for this project. The notable difference is the site, the nature of the site here had additional land, and we started ruminating about the idea of actually building some additional housing. So this project will contain an additional new construction of 24 units, and to make sure that it remains affordable, our colleagues at DHCR have awarded 24 project-based vouchers for this project. So it's a really kind of, it's a unique circumstance that we were able to enjoy.
Now before the committee and board are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA Board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
Item 16, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $4.5 million for SWIRD, Wayne County.
Yes, we affectionately call it SWIRD.
SWIRD.
Sodas
SWIRD?
Williamson 2 RD Rural Development. So, the context of this is we seem to be doing one, we would hope to do more than that a year, rural development projects that aggregate multiple formerly financed by RD sites for preservation deal. This is another example of those, and it's in fact next door to one that we did. One of the buildings here is next door to the WIH projects that we did last year. We're asking here for 4.5 million allocation of bonds. This project will be the acquisition and rehabilitation of the total number of units, which I lost, 95 units, sorry. We will also be seeking 1.25 million from the Homes for Working Families program today at the HDFC board meeting. There will be an existing HAP contract for Section 8 vouchers for 94 of the units. The rehab is substantial. It's 36,000 per unit, not as many needs as the previous projects, but this will include new roofs, new windows, new siding and insulation. 75% of the kitchens and 75% of the bathrooms will be updated. The project team is CV Emmanuel with Hudson Valley Property Group. The investor is Richmond. Letter of credit is being provided by Key, and insurance is SONYMA. I think we distributed an updated sources and uses from the original board book. Original had just kind of a weird calculation error thing. I won't understand how that, what did it, but the sources that was corrected and provided to you.
There's SIF funding here.
I'm sorry, I said Homes for Working Families
SIF.
only, but there is also SIF funding that'll also seek an award from the Housing Trust Fund Corporation. The SIF is 1.5 million, the Homes for Working Families is 1.25.
Is the SIF just gap funding here?
Exactly.
For rural.
The SIF program, which began 2.5 or so years ago, has two components: rural preservation for communities with fewer than 25,000, and mixed
Right.
use where they were providing
This is
funding.
I'm guessing this is the rural
This is
preservation.
very much rural part. Yep.
That is good. And the RD program, how many of the RD is this a regular feature of our work? I think this may be the first one that I've seen.
I think it's the first one this year.
They're hard to do.
Yeah, they're very
They're
hard to
really
do.
hard.
This methodology of doing them is one that we want to do more and more, but they are just very difficult to manage through the RD federal system.
That's USDA.
USDA. There are, my memory is like 300 or so of properties like this across the state, and they do need substantial investment. Doing them one-offs won't work, so we like to aggregate them and do them in a single bond deal.
Single bond deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this case, we're doing two projects. In the past, we've done as many as 6 all in one. I think
Right.
that's the R2D2.
Do we know where they all are?
Yes.
And do they come to us or we go to them?
A little bit of both. Yeah, we've been talking about this topic substantially in industry forums, so we encourage developers to go find them and bring them to us.
Note that a change page is included in the members' folders to correct a typographical error in Schedule C of the board memo. The corrected page has also been sent to the members participating via video conference and has been corrected in the version of board materials that is posted on the agency's website.
There was a typo? I assume someone was reprimanded and then fired.
Beaten.
Beaten. Well, I forgot. Beating.
It's not gonna happen again.
Early enough.
It's a rough place, let me tell you.
You have to prove, you have to pick somebody as an example, even places like this.
An example must be made.
Examples.
Things have changed around here, I see. Okay.
Exactly.
Adam, before we dig ourselves in any deeper, go.
Now before the committee and board are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 The motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
Item 17, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $22 million for Clinton Plaza, Onondaga County.
This to me is the exception that proves the rule. This is an HFA Mitchell-Lama that's actually fairly troubled. Our portfolio has tended to perform very well. This particular project has been held up and owned by an estate for many, many years, which made getting it out of the hands of the estate and doing something with it a huge challenge. And I don't know if Mark Flesher is here, but Mark really deserves a lot of credit for the hand-to-hand combat and getting the estate to see the light and agree to sell the project. So Clinton Plaza is a 23-story, 305-unit Mitchell-Lama building in downtown Syracuse. It's adjacent to a lot of development that we've seen happen and that the Mortgage Insurance Fund has been involved with. We're before the board seeking up to $22 million in bonds, $5 million of Mitchell-Lama subsidy funds. Last year, the legislature also gave us a new $25 million Mitchell-Lama program to help us address the physical needs of non-UDC Mitchell-Lama projects. We're talking to a number of people, not just projects that are in our portfolio that need attention. So $5 million of Mitchell-Lama funds, $2.7 million of HFA funds. Later today, the Housing Trust Fund will also consider a $2 million Homes for Working Families loan. So City of Syracuse, demonstrating its support for the project, is providing a pilot and $675,000 of subsidy dollars, all of which is going towards the $38 million of total development cost of this project, which includes $67,000 of hard cost. Right now, there are, I think, approximately 80 units that are currently uninhabitable in this building. The project needs roof replacement, masonry and carpentry repairs, replacement, new windows, new PTAC louvers, new kitchens and baths in each unit, new energy efficiency and lighting, extensive electrical work, upgrades and modernization of the elevators. There are going to be social services provided on site, and there's going to be a build out of certain spaces to accommodate that on the first and second floor, and asbestos abatement in the first 2 floors of the building as well. This needs significant work. We'd never like to see any of our projects get to this state, and we're glad we can be at a point to move this forward. We are hoping to participate in the RAD program, which will provide project-based assistance for approximately 218 of the 305 units. The tax credits here are going to be purchased by Raymond James at a price of 99 cents. The purchaser is the Mulholland Group. This is the first transaction we've done with them, but they have over 1,800 units around the country. Condren Management will be the management company, and the GC is BBL Construction, which is based in Albany with over 40 years
So
of experience.
So the tax credits are selling for 99 cents, and there's 80 uninhabitable units. So it's the vouchers that make this work, I assume.
It is the vouchers.
And the pilot.
Yeah,
They're not investing in the current
And
situation.
subsidy.
Yeah, no.
Investing in the future.
Really.
and subsidy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Great. Good question.
You know, and the difference between an upstate and downstate Mitchell-Lama, that even with project-based vouchers, an upstate deal will need a subsidy to make it work,
Yeah,
The rents.
right? Because
This
the
is-
rents are just not there.
I've seen this one. This is
It's a big ugly.
big ugly building.
It's the big
But
ugly.
it's like the backdrop of Armory Square. You see it when you're standing there.
Yeah. Good to do.
What's the relocation plan? It sounds like there are about 200 occupied units.
I-
I presume it's
I would fix up the 81st, move people in.
I don't believe anybody's being. Yeah, tentative.
Chris. Like it needs a lot of work.
Does.
And we have just another kind of, maybe for the board redesign question. When we calculate the equity, do we look at the tax credit equity, or I mean, is that how we calculate it?
Where are you?
This is
In the
on-
sources and uses?
This is on page 4, when we talk about the borrower's equity exposure.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's unusual for there to be money out.
Have before the committee and board a resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item, assuming the first and second previously entered to the committee. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
We have an additional item for our agenda for HFA. It's an information item and concerns report on certain developments in conjunction or in connection with an item previously approved by HFA.
Thank you. At its September board meeting, the HFA members approved a resolution for 325 Kent Avenue Apartments, otherwise known downstate as Domino. This is the first project. The board authorized the financing up to $198 million. And when I was explaining what we expected to do on the financing, we were at that point expecting to issue about $180 million of bonds for the project, with approximately $22 million of volume cap bonds being used and $158 million of recycling. An issue came up as we were moving towards closing on the deal that meant that we had to rejigger the allocation of how much recycling we were intending to use in the project. And as part of that, the agency has agreed to increase the amount of volume cap that it's providing to the project, but limiting it to only the amount necessary to fund the low-income portion. So we're moving from 22 million of volume cap to 41.2 million of volume cap. The remainder of the 158 recycling is going to be made up of $94 million of recycling and $44.4 million of taxable debt. So the decrease in recycling is really made up of $44 million of taxable and an increase of about $20 million of cap bonds, and it seemed a good sharing of the pain of having to restructure the transaction late in the game. Are there any questions? It was all contemplated, the resolution that was passed still allows for that, but because we had been so clear about our expectations, we wanted to update the board.
They started construction? What's the time?
I don't know the answer to that.
What was the question?
Whether or not they put a shovel in the ground, it's hard to imagine that they didn't in advance of 421A, but I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I don't know the answer.
Just curious.
When was
And
the
we
deal was cut? This was a year and a half.
that's
First thing in the new mayor's.
exactly
Cut in the first 6 months of his administration.
right, and we would expect to close this transaction in the next 2 weeks.
Good, no, I
Thank
mean,
you.
we've talked about it, there was a lot of scrambling around. I think the team did a nice job of reacting to some circumstances out of their control. And here we actually are gonna inflict punishment on somebody not employed by us. Thanks, Mary. It's a
Thank
good
you,
group,
Mary.
it's a good group project. That was, by the way, Brett Garwood, I mentioned in my report. Brett Garwood, who received a nice HFA award.
Now moving to the AHC consent item, item 18, a resolution authorizing award of grant funds for certain projects and ratifying a previous approval. This is a consent item and there'll be no discussion unless members so request. Adam.
Now before the board is a resolution of the New York State Affordable Housing Corporation authorizing awards of grant funds for certain projects located outside of the city of New York. Assuming the first and second previously entered to the AHC board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Okay, there being no further items for HFA Finance and Program Committee and the HFA and AHC boards, Adam will ask for motions and seconds to adjourn the meetings.
Assuming the first and second previously entered to the HFA Finance and Program Committee, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. The committee meeting is adjourned, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA and AHC boards. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. The motions are carried. The meetings are adjourned. Our next board meeting is Thursday, December 10 at 8:30.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.